So now it's time for me to explain why his biggest argument about home ownership is false. So if you could first pull up, Jared, the article from the run sheet, the Balance Money article, just so we can remind people what the home ownership rate actually calculates. Because when you hear the word home ownership, you think it's a simple, it's just, oh, it's just who owns homes, right? Like it sounds really simple, but it's,
all right, here we go.
You know, for me, it is intentionally confusing. But so if you scroll, if you scroll down, it actually says the home ownership rate is calculated by such and such. And don't get me to lying about like where exactly. There it is. So the home ownership rate is the percentage of U.S. homes that are owner occupied. The rate is calculated by dividing the number of homes that are owner occupied by the total number of occupied households. So when we talk about things like percentage rates, it's actually a fraction, right? So you have a number on the top, your numerator, you have a number on the bottom, your denominator, right? Per what John Hope Bryant says, the number on the top is the amount of people who own, the amount of Black people who own a home, right? And the number on the bottom is the amount of Black people who live in this country. That is what you would assume the home ownership rate means. Okay? You following me, Jerry? Look, you're nodding. You following me?
I'm with you so far. I'm with you so far.
Now, if you could for me, we're going to go to the census numbers. So this is the data of Black people in 2022. So this spreadsheet you can actually download from the website. And I think that Pew Research next to it is the actual website where you can download it from. But this,
what is this?
Oh, it shouldn't be.
Why is this?
Uh-oh.
All right, hold on. Let me stop this page. I got it. I just made a copy and I'll share that one. Here we go.
The owner deleted it or something.
Oh, interesting. So I guess the Pew Research people took it down. That's interesting. Huh. Well, anywho.
This is it here.
So this is it. So if you go to the general demographics tab at the bottom, it'll give you a lot of these like things. So you got your total Black population, your age group. So if you keep scrolling down, because I want people to see where I got the numbers from. So scroll down. So see this household type? Yep, go back up a little bit. This household type, total population living in households, right? This is the number. It breaks down married couples, blah, 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 blah. So scroll down a little bit more. And you see how, and so it says total Black households. So our original number of people, Black people in the country was like 40 whatever million.
8.
Right? And remember I said to you, when you're thinking about what he's describing to people, that is the number that would be on the bottom of that fraction, is that total 45. I think it's all the way at the top. 45 million, whatever. Mm-hmm. Right? There it is. 47.
Yeah, 47.
Right. So in the sentence he uses when he says it, it would be 44% of that number of people who own a home. Right? Mm-hmm. Because it's the number of people who own the home versus on the bottom, the number of the total population. What the number actually calculates, you see how this says total Black households, 17 million? Mm-hmm. That is actually the number on the bottom. Because the calculation is not based on the amount of Black people in the country. It is based on the amount of households, Black households in the country. And and just note next to it, you see how it says single race, multiracial, Hispanic? So the single race column, that 15 million, those are the homes where they could verify that all the people living in the house were Black.
Mm-hmm. So that number gets smaller. Yep.
Okay. So this is now your denominator. Okay. You still with me, Jared?
I'm with you.
Okay. Now
So
your
15
numerator,
million households.
right? So your numerator is the line right under it where it says owner occupied.
6 million.
That is how many households are. That's how many Black people live in a house they own. That is what the home ownership rate is based on.
Right.
And then if you count my household, we get up to 7.4 at the maximum.
Right. Right.
But single race, all Black in the house households, 6.6 million owner occupied.
Right. And it is 44%. It is. It's like 43.8%. It absolutely is that number. But they don't have nothing to do with the actual math of how many Black people live in the country. So when he says 44% of us own a home, it is a literal lie, because that's not the facts of it. So if you go to my spreadsheet, which is the real data.
Wait a minute. That part. Okay. So you're saying the lie is because it shows here that it is 44% of.
But the lie is in the way it's stated. So if you say 44% of us own homes, right? People are going to
You're talking about out of the 48 million.
Correct.
Yeah. And they're not going to take it to mean that that's 44% of the 6 million households.
Right.
That are Black and owner occupied.
Correct. So if you go to the spreadsheet underneath this link, which is the one that says the real data. So this is the spreadsheet that I created because I decided that I wanted to know the one right underneath it. It says the real data.
Oh.
So this is the spreadsheet that I created because I was curious as to what the actual percentages were and where the number actually falls in. So
only Black folks think.
So at the top, that is the baseline number that they give you of owner occupied homes for Black people. That's 722,856. That is your numerator. So with everything that you're doing, that is the number that is on the top of the fraction that you are going to divide by the actual population, right? So I was trying to figure out, like, can you get, like, if you do 44% of the various versions of Black populations, right? Do you get to the number 7 million? Like, could it be that I am mistaken and that you can still get to this number, right? So I tried various things. So the first one is the total Black population, which is that 47 million number. So 44% of that is 21 million. That's like 3 times that number. So it's definitely not the total population of Black people, right? Because 44% of the total population of Black people is 21 million and change. So that's out. Automatically, you should no longer ever say that 44% of Black people own a home, because it is simply factually incorrect. Okay? So then I was like, all right, let me be fair, right? Obviously, he couldn't be talking about children, right? So in that spreadsheet, they actually do a breakdown of age ranges, right? So the next 2 lines are looking at Black people who are 18 years old or older, right?
We're extremely young.
Right. So that's just under 35 million, right? Just under 35 million. So 44% of that is like 15 million. So that's like double what the actual number is. So it's not even based on all the adults that are Black people. So that's out as well. So then I tried to get slick, and I'm going to try not to lose you here, Jared, because this is just numbers and this was just me messing around with stuff.
You're doing well, because I'm following this. This is making sense. So.
One of the age ranges in the census was the range of 18 to 29. So I thought to myself, okay, so figure most people don't have like, 18-year-olds who are owning houses. So let's split that number in half, right? And reduce the total number of actual adults who might be owners of a home, right? So it's everyone who's 30 and above and half of the people who are from 18 to 29. So that gets you to just, like 30.6 million people. Well, 40% of that is 13 million. That's still too high. So it's not that group either. So then I was like, all right, let's take out the whole category. Let's just do people who are over 30, right? Just people who are over 30. So now you're at 26 million and change, right? 44% of that is 11. That's still too high.
Damn.
It's still too high. All right. So then I went to the actual, okay, here are the numbers because I wanted people to see where the 44% comes from. So this is the actual home ownership calculation. It is that 17.6 million and change divided by the 7.7 million, right? That is the number. That's how you get to 44%. Is by the numerator being the number of people who live in a house that they own, and the denominator being the amount of households that are quote unquote Black, which for them actually is one Black person living in the household, right? So that's also tricky, which is how we get to the next place. All right. So that's where that 44% comes from. Now, if you look at the total, like households that are all Black and owner owned, that's what that next set of numbers are. So you got that 15 mil, 15 and a half mil, 6.8. So that's also about 44%. Okay. So it tracks for what they're trying to, when they say to you, like, oh, the home, it's not a lie that it's 44%, but the lie is in what the home ownership rate means. Because people assume
or in what
that we're
percentage
talking about everybody.
Right. As I'm understanding it, the lie in claiming 44% is in that it's suggestive of 44% of the entire Black population when it's really
Correct.
44% of a very small or relatively small segment of the Black population.
It's about a third of the Black population. Right. So underneath is the actual percentages, because y'all know how I get. So the total Black homes, so I went back to the number, that's 6.8 million. And there were 27% of that group were couples. So I went ahead and did the math. 20% of that 6 point whatever is 1.8 million. So we're going to change our numerator, the number on the top, to this 8.67 million, right? Because that is calculating the idea that a couple would count as two Black people who are in the numerator, okay? So if you go with that number as your numerator and your denominator is actually the amount of Black people over 30, it's 33%. And that's generous because not every Black person who's over 30 owns a home, okay? If you go to that second group that I calculated, which is half of that 18 to 29 group, it's 28%. If you go to all the adults who are Black in the country, it drops down to less than 25%. And if you go with the total population of Black people in the country, it's not even 20%, it's 18%. So if you want to be accurate, like by the numbers, right? Because he always says like math doesn't give an opinion. All right. So we're going with that theory that math doesn't give an opinion, and math, numbers are numbers, right? If we're going to say that what the home ownership rate is of Black people in this country, it is 18.1%.
Well, and then there could be honest discussions also about what does that actually mean.
Right.
Wealth is tied to home ownership. To what extent does home ownership advance the conditions of what segment of the community, what forms of home ownership is this?
Correct.
What homes are these owned? Like, what is the value of these homes that
Correct.
these 18% are owning? All of that. And then so he's misrepresenting everything by taking, I mean, he's doing what he's doing the stereotypical thing. He takes a headline or a slogan and has turned it into an entire cottage industry.
And everywhere he goes, he says that the home ownership rate is 41, 42, 43, 44%. Everywhere he goes. And it is not that the home ownership rate calculation is not what he says it is. It's that the home ownership rate does not mean what he says it means.
That's right.